So, George Rogers Clark, the fucking baby butcher of the Northwest. So, George Rogers Clark, he was a real young man given all his power. He was able to take Kaskaskia and Vincennes, Indiana, Illinois, the great conqueror of the Northwest, so he was in the Western Theater during the American Revolution. Because the British had ceded the entire Northwest Territory to the United States in the 1783 Treaty of Paris, Clark has often been hailed as the great bloody conqueror and Indian baby butcher of the old Northwest. George Rogers Clark's military achievements all came before his 30th birthday. Afterwards, he led militia in the opening engagements of the Northwest Indian War, was accused of being drunk on duty. So this baby butcher was also a drunken bastard fuckwad. This motherless fuck, this piece of shit son of a bitch. George Rogers Clark is a piece of shit, okay? So never fully reimbursed by Virginia for his wartime expenditures, eventually, gets his just dessert. He spends his final decades of his life evading creditors, living in increasing poverty and obscurity. He was involved in two failed conspiracies to open the Spanish-controlled Mississippi River to American traffic. After suffering a stroke and losing his leg, George Rogers Clark was aided in his final years by family members, including his younger brother William, one of the leaders of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Clark died of a stroke on February 13, 1818. The last known recorded Shawnee village in Kentucky is Skippy, disappeared on the onset of the French, British, and Indian War. It's located in present-day Clark County, Kentucky, which is named after George Rogers Clark. In fact, Kentucky boasts of about 1/3 to 2/3 of its counties who are named after these white genociders, white Indian, a lot of the time slave-owning genociders. The whites stole, raped, and murdered, and then they put the name on their land, which was never theirs to begin with. Kentucky is the homeland of the Shawnees. Oppressors attempted to genocide the entire culture, not just murder, but all the evidence of culture. Get rid of all of it. The county in Indiana across from Louisville is also called Clark County too. So that was because George Rogers Clark was given a big chunk of land in Indiana after the war, but he eventually squandered it and he wasn't able to pay his bills with the chunk of land. George Rogers Clark is also credited with having founded Louisville. Right before he went and attacked Kaskaskia, Illinois, he was waiting on Corn Island, which was, right by the falls of the Ohio, present-day Louisville. So they're on Corn Island, and then several of them deserted, and they swam across, and then they founded Louisville. So the founders of Louisville were actually deserters of George Rogers Clark's army. He's accredited with it because, it was his people that had founded it. And it was named after, the French imperialist King Louis XVI. So George Rogers Clark was a savage, murderous, genocidal piece of shit comparable to Christopher Columbus and Hitler. Now, Simon Kitten, I'm giving you all these background stories because in order to understand Chief Plucky, you've got to understand Simon Kitten, and you've also got to understand George Rogers Clark. Why is it important that he's attacking George Rogers Clark land? Who's Simon Kitten? Why is Simon Kitten chasing after this guy? Why is Simon Kitten killing Mingo Indians? So, Simon Kitten. Simon Kitten's own transformation from an ordinary teenage farm boy into a famous frontiersman started in the spring of 1771 with a misadventure. At the age of 16, Simon Kitten fled his family's farm in Virginia after an impassioned fight with the man who stole away his sweetheart. Simon beat the man senseless and, presuming that he had killed his romantic rival, escaped into the wilderness without money, food, or provisions. When Simon finally reached a distant settlement, he adopted the alias of Simon Butler for a time, who went to work for the local miller to purchase the essentials for survival, and after several weeks resumed his travels. A remarkable, strong, and tall youth, Simon Kenton adapted well to the rigors of life in the wilderness. His status as a fearful fugitive quickly faded from memory as he pursued a dream to find and explore the fabled Kentucky lands. Incredibly rich hunting grounds jealously guarded by the native Amerindians and the mysterious middle ground they inhabited. In the fall of 1771, Simon Kenton caught his first glimpse of the beautiful Ohio River. and the intriguing land beyond while traveling with a pair of fur traders. A few miles below Little Beaver Creek, the group put ashore and paid a friendly visit to Chief Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan, Mingo's village on nearby Yellow Creek. So, in the fall of 1771, Simon Kitten actually comes across Johnny Logan, and his Indian name, the autonym or antonym, the name that they call themselves, was Talgahyeetah. So Johnny Logan, which is easier to remember, and I'm probably going to refer to him more as Johnny Logan, who is one of the most important person in the American Revolution. Talgahyeetah. And if you don't know Johnny Logan, you don't know anything about the American Revolution. Okay, so Simon Kitten visits Chief Johnny Logan, which was nearby Yellow Creek, which is nearby present-day Jefferson Lake State Park, probably named after Thomas Jefferson, on the eastern and central border of Ohio. It's also next to Steubenville, and it's no surprise that the legacy of psychopathic white rape has continued in Steubenville, just like the rape in the Yellow Creek Massacre, the rape of the Indians, the rape of their culture, their women, their life, their land. So the Simon Kitten must have made a good impression on Chief Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan, because later on he would intervene to help save Simon Kitten's life. April 30th, May 3rd, in the spring of 1774, Chief Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan's family, who had so graciously welcomed Simon Kitten 3 years before, was brutally murdered by a party of malicious frontier explorers. This is known as the Yellow Creek Massacre. It's the first battle of the American Revolutionary War. It was before the Battle of Point Pleasant. The grief-stricken Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan took his revenge against settlements in the Virginia Territory, escalating the clashes between settlers and Indians dramatically. Simon Kitten decided to exercise prudence and head for the relative safety of the large secured settlement at Fort Pitt, now Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. At Fort Pitt, Simon Kitten met and befriended Simon Girty, who is the white man who eventually deflects to the Indians. Simon Girty goes Indian. He goes Indian. He becomes Indian. He adopts the Indian way of life. So Simon Girty is a scout and a translator. He's mistrusted by many whites for his close association with the Amerindians. Simon also met George Rogers Clark, the Virginia militia leader, whose brother William Clark would later lead the famous expedition to explore the interior of the continent with Meriwether Lewis, and also York, his slave, who eventually ran away from his enslavement. Simon Kitten was recruited to serve in the campaign led by Lord Dunmore, governor of the colonies of New York and Virginia, appointed by the King of England to initiate war on Amerindians. After a week's deliberation, Simon Kitten joined them as a spy and scout alongside his new friend, Simon Girty. During British Lord Dunmore's War, a.k.a. Mingo warrior Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan's Revenge, Simon Kitten crisscrossed the Ohio Territory as a courier between Lord Dunmore's troops and backwoods volunteers under the command of Captain Andrew Lewis. So right now, Simon Kitten is a British subject, okay? So he is fighting for a British protectorate, Lord Dunmore, against the Native Americans at the Battle of Point Pleasant in response to the Yellow Creek massacres, or the massacre. So Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan and his Mingo tribe settled along Yellow Creek. So Yellow Creek is where Johnny Logan lived. That's where Talgahyeetah lived, in Yellow Creek. It's a small tributary of the Ohio River near present-day Steubenville, Ohio, near Pittsburgh. Clearly, there's still a problem today with rape. Though Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan was a war chief, he continued to lead his fellow natives in peace by not attacking whites settling in the Ohio country. Unfortunately, Johnny Logan Talgahyeetah's attitude changed in the spring of 1774 when a group of Virginia trappers led by Jacob Greathouse, so Virginia colonist Jacob Greathouse, a white man, deceptively and in cold blood murdered approximately 1 dozen Mingos right across the Ohio River from where Logan and his Mingo village slept. He killed virtually his whole family. Jacob Greathouse, a Virginia colonist, an invader, a colonialist invader, and his friends cordially invited Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan and his comrades over to their camp for games and food. Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan, being the friend of both whites and Amerindians, accepted, but he couldn't attend himself. So Jacob Greathouse is inviting the Mingo tribe, come on over here, Johnny Logan, we're going to have fun, we're going to be drinking, we're going to be playing games, it's going to be a good time. So the Amerindians, the Mingos, had drunk a lot of whiskey, and they unloaded their weapons in a shooting contest. Once they were drunk, and once their weapons had no bullets in them, Jacob Greathouse's men killed all of them, slaughtered them all the Mingos, including women and children. They even slung the intestines of Logan's pregnant sister all over the banks of the Ohio River after they scalped the sister's baby Mingo fetus. So they killed Johnny Logan's mother, they killed Johnny Logan's sister, they killed Johnny Logan's sister's baby. They even scalped the baby that was in Johnny Logan's sister's stomach. When Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan's village heard the shots, Johnny Logan's father was one of the first in a canoe to race towards the opposite shore. He was killed by a bullet from Jacob Greathouse's party before he got halfway across the river. So Johnny Logan's entire family is wiped out. His father, his mother, his sister, and his niece, the sister's baby. So Johnny Logan, his entire family's murdered. He has no other choice but to fight. So he writes a note to Captain Creasap, because he blamed Captain Creasap for the Yellow Creek Massacre. He wrote a note and he put it up on their door, Captain Creasap's door, I guess. What did you kill my people on Yellow Creek for? The white people killed my kin at Conestoga a great while ago, and I thought nothing of that. But you killed my kin again on Yellow Creek, and you took my cousin prisoner. Then I thought I must kill too, and I have been 3 times to war since. But the Indians are not angry, only myself, Chief Johnny Logan, Talgahyeetah. So Talgahyeetah writes this note saying he's declaring war on everybody. So influential tribal chiefs in the region, such as Cornstalk, who is Shawnee, White Eyes, who is a Lenape, Delaware, and Guyasuta. Guyasuta actually had Simon Girty as his assistant. So Simon Girty knew Guyasuta, who is Seneca/Mingo war chief. They attempted to negotiate a peaceful resolution lest the Yellow Creek Massacre develop into a larger general Amerindian war. But the Native American custom said that Johnny Logan said that Talgahyeetah had a right to retaliate for the murders of his family. An eye for an eye, right? So proportional. So theoretically, that's how America operates today. Several parties of the mixed Mingo and Shawnee warriors soon struck the white colonizing invaders, including one led by Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan. They attacked settlers in several frontier regions, killing both and taking captives. So the British Royal Governor of Virginia, Lord Dunmore, responded by launching an expedition against the Mingos and the Shawnees in a conflict known as Dunmar's War. So the Yellow Creek Massacre happens. Jacob Greathouse kills all of Johnny Logan's Talgahyeetah's family, his mother, his father, his sister, and the baby out, slings the intestines up and down the Ohio River of his sister, scalps the fetus. Jacob Greathouse massacres the shit out of Johnny Logan's family, so Johnny Logan starts attacking up and down the different white invaders, some in Pennsylvania, some in Ohio, just all over the place. And because of those attacks, the British governor of Virginia decides to declare war. So again, it was on April 30th, May 30th, 1774. There was a bunch of Virginia settlers, and they murdered approximately a dozen Mingos. Among them was Logan's mother, father, sister. They scalped the baby child. Johnny Talgahyeetah Logan demanded that the Mingos and their allies, principally the Shawnee Amerindians, take revenge for the deaths of his loved ones. Cornstalk, one of the important leaders of the Shawnee, still called for peace, but Johnny Logan, Talgahyeetah, ignored him. Talgahyeetah conducted raids in western Pennsylvania, killing 13 whites in retaliation for the Mingo's deaths. So there was 12 that was killed on his family. He kills 13 whites in proportion of the massacre that was done to him.